Hello and welcome back to another edition of this Spotlight. And I am so excited today to introduce you to Vivian Mcgrath, who is right here in Hong Kong with me as well. We finally got to meet in person recently. So welcome so much to the Spotlight, Vivian.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I'm very honored that you invited me to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, well, it is such a pleasure and a joy to be able to share your story and to share your message and the beautiful work that you're doing in the world. And so with that, actually, before we even get started, I'd love for you to share with everyone watching, what is it that you're up to? Who are you? And what is the thing that you're birthing into the world?
I'm Vivian Mcgrath, or Viv, either one. And I'm actually a television executive producer, and I make documentaries and drama documentaries for all the major British, American, and Australian television networks. And I've been doing that for many years now, but I've now decided to tell my own story. And it's a story that not many of my colleagues even know about me, not even my oldest friends. Many don't even know this story about me. And that is that I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And I just feel the time is right now to tell my story. And what I'm trying to do is create an online business, which is about bottling up all of this knowledge that I've learned over many years of turning myself from a victim to a survivor, from a survivor to a success story. You know, I've gone from being a victim of domestic violence to someone who's found success in life, career, and long-term love, actually, 30 years on with my man who's my best friend now. And so I wanted to bottle it up and create online courses that women could take, or men could take, to really guide them through the steps that I took, and hopefully a lot quicker and with a lot less pain than it took me over so many years. Because I never had someone like that when I was going through it. And I want to become that person I wish I had, to say, this is how you go. And there is life after abuse. So online courses, but I want to do everything, as you know. I want to do podcasts. I want to do films about the subject. I want to do a TED Talk. That's my dream.
And you will, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm actually, you even have something that has been created. I mean, I would say the first thing that poured out of you, share the first thing that poured out of you, that this was like kind of this catalyst that's brought you to this, is the book. Is that true?
Oh, yes. I forgot about the book.
Yeah.
Yes. I decided to first tell my story in a book, and so I've written my manuscript, and I've been in discussion with publishers. I have an agent now, but it just is so slow. It's such a slow process. They are really like dinosaurs, and I think they need to learn a bit about the pace of social media.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, while those wheels are churning, I also would like to build up an online presence and get my message out, build a profile that I am somebody who is knowledgeable about this subject, because people only knew me as a television producer. I do have a very high profile in that industry, but I needed to build it from scratch as a spokesperson for domestic violence. So I was doing that, but along the way I realized that actually the potential was so much greater, that there are people doing online courses, and you can create an online business about knowledge, because we are in an ideas economy now. And actually, if you have something that you really do know and understand and can make a difference to people's lives, there are people out there who will pay you for that information to make a difference to them. So then it started taking a life of its own. So I created a blog, started writing a blog, and it's just been incredible. The wheels have just been getting faster and faster, and I've done a feature article in the Daily Mail that I wrote. It wasn't a journalist interviewing me. I wrote that for them. I've had guest posts on tinybuddha.com and havingtime.com, and I've done a half-hour radio interview for Talk Radio Europe, which was really fun. So it's been incredible, and it's almost it's gained so much momentum that my agent and I have now decided that we are probably going to self-publish, because I've already got people saying, "Where's the book? Where's the book? When's the book coming out?" So that is
awesome.
The book. It's called How I Left a Violent Man, and that is actually my autobiography of how I came from being in a middle-class, very happy home with no experience of domestic violence, ended up in this very destructive relationship, and how I worked out myself how to change me and save me and heal me and find the courage to walk away from something that pulled me so strongly back, because they have a real power over you. So it is my story, and it also goes into the fact that I believe that domestic violence is a cycle that passes down from generation to generation. So although I didn't have a history of it, or I had, in my eyes, a happy home and a wonderful childhood, there were dysfunctional, negative patterns that were passed down to me, along with all the amazing stuff that was passed down to me. And I had to recognize what they were, and I had to realize I can love my parents, but I don't have to like everything about them, and to separate the two, understand those things that were passed down to me that made me go into a relationship like this. And once I understood that, I could break the cycle. So I then did not pass it down to my son, who I had at the time, and now my second son. And so it really is a book about, it's my story, but it's also about how we all need to understand that it is a cycle that we can break. Not just the individual. We can all break this epidemic that is an epidemic. 2 women a week are killed. So it's a very important message. So.
Well, and you share this, and I'll be sure to link to the Daily Mail and, of course, your website, which is the name of the book initially even was going to be what you've now called the website, right, which is Unbeatable.
Well, it is actually. Sorry, it is. I'm now forgetting the own title of my book. It is Unbeatable, and it's in brackets, How I Left a Violent Man.
Yeah.
And the website is Unbeatable, but it's beingunbeatable.com.
Yeah, which I love, because you have this lens, which is about, and this is what I think is so beautiful, is not only about, supporting those who are in domestic violence, but it's truly about transforming yourself into someone who is unbeatable. So you've got this initial course right now that I know you're working on, which is From Victim to Survivor. But then the whole path is actually to take them not just from surviving, but to truly be, well, you tell us, what's the next phase after that?
Yeah, I've got it all mapped out. So they go from it's really the course of what I went through. So victim to survivor, then survivor to staying strong, which is about how you break that cycle, how you don't go back to a violent relationship or into another one and replicate it again, and how you just start to really find who you are and stay strong. Then the next one is staying strong to success, how you can really take those principles and apply it to your life to find success in career, which, during the course of everybody's career, you will come across people who are very difficult. You'll meet bullies. You'll be in situations that you find your fears come out and they tap buttons and all that. So I've actually applied all the principles I've learned through that relationship into the course of my life, and as a result, I'm absolutely certain it's why I've become a very successful television producer, because I'm in an industry that has huge personalities, and I have had bullies in the past and all that, but it's also taught me the skills to be a leader, because as an executive producer, I manage huge teams You know, one show I did was 20 episodes of dramas being shot all over the world, and I had team, you know, hundreds of people working for me, and so it's given me the skills of really how to lead people as well, and how to engage in healthy relationships with everybody, not just someone you're in love with.
Yeah.
So it's been great. So that's, I want to take people on that course.
Yeah, and in particular yourself, you know, which it starts with you, right? And your own relationship to yourself, your own ability to see what is healthy, what's not healthy, which I know is the title of this course of yours, which is called Start With Me. And this is so much of the work that I love, which, as you know, which is so much about this relationship with ourself. And as we're on this journey, when we can start with our relationship with ourself, there's so much power in that. And what I think is fascinating, and I love that you call this out so clearly to the people that you're speaking to, is that you, for example, great example, like you thought you were a very strong, independent woman, you know, back, you know, telling the story of you as this young woman and the man that you met. I mean, just give a little bit of a window into your story and how you felt at the time and how it was so surprising to you to find yourself there.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought I was the strong one, you know. At school, I was always I was very popular at school. I could get on with anybody, the cool kids, the nerdy kids. I was very well liked. And if you ask my friends even today, and they've said this, being so surprised about my story when now they're hearing it, they said, but we always thought you were the strong one, you know. And it's just not about being strong. I was deeply insecure. I was very insecure. I had this inner void of not feeling good enough, which I realize now. I didn't at the time, of course. Yeah. And so when this gorgeous actor, you know, quite a well-known actor, came into my life, and I saw him across the room, he was just so charismatic and so it was like he sucked the energy out of everyone else in the room. You know, that type of personality like that. And I was just swept off my feet. But, you know, we were at an agency party and there were models and actors everywhere. And he just focused his undivided attention on me. And that just felt amazing. And that just filled that void inside. And so I just got swept up into this relationship. And then later down the track, I started to get the glimpses of that darker side. And I wasn't equipped for it at all. I really didn't know. I just had no frame of reference of that sort of behavior and how to deal with it. You know, one minute getting the nice, gorgeous one, remorseful for any bad behavior, the next minute getting the bad guy, and round in a circle, you know, and it wears you down. It wears your confidence even further.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. And it ended up to be, so just sharing with our audience here so that they are familiar. And again, I want everyone to go read the full story because it's really, really powerful. But that in the end, you ended up falling in love and being with this man and then actually getting pregnant with his child. And I mean, you guys were together like full force. But then what happened?
And then I was 7 months pregnant, and it was one of those arguments. It was just inconsequential. You would, in a normal relationship, you wouldn't think twice about it, you know. And he just erupted and started smashing everything around, all over the place around me, and then strangled me, and then put his hands around my throat. And I find it really hard to talk about this. So,
I was going to say, I'm sorry if you've
it triggers
you.
It's fine. It triggers me. It takes me straight back to that fear. And I go into detail about it in my Daily Mail article, so they can read about it there. But just in brief, you are there, and when they're doing that to you and telling you to die, I won't say the word he called me, but you can guess. His eyes were black. they were cold and black, and they were like the eyes of a murderer. And as the air was squeezed out, I could hear this sound, and it was a gut animal sound, and it was me. And I realized it was me, but it wasn't me. And it's the similar of when people are in labor sometimes, and you get to that point, and you know it's you, and it's guttural. And it was me begging for my life. And I thought that I was about to die, and I thought that the last person I would see was the person I loved killing me. And I had this, as the white tunnel closed around me. Oh, sorry, it's really difficult. As the white tunnel closed around me, I got this vision. And they say when you're about to die, your life flashes before you. My life didn't flash before me, but what flashed before me was in slow motion, and it was an absolutely vivid picture, and I could see my parents finding my body, and I could feel their pain and their upset as they saw that their baby girl, the fourth born, the last child, had been killed by the man who loved her. And I could feel it. It was real. It was like they were there, and my energy was their energy, and I can't describe that feeling. And that's why I thought, oh, I'm dying now. And then I obviously went unconscious, and then the next thing I knew was I was being dragged over the broken glass from everything he'd smashed. And yeah, it was it was a pretty intense thing to have to go through. And as you can see, I've dealt with it. I've processed it over years, and it's all cool. I'm fine. It's just weird if I talk about it.
It's interesting because, like, I think I've read it so many times, but I haven't had you tell me. And I mean, I even wonder if we should even keep this in the interview, because it is totally triggering. It's really intense and really hard to hear. Maybe even extra intense for me, because I love you, and I just know, that I have so much compassion for the Viv that you were in that moment at that time, and and anger, and it like triggers so much, right? So I don't even know if we should keep that in here, but I do think that
you should, because I think it's good. I think it's good for people to see where I've come from.
And also just that the whole point here was to help convey that, like, you're a smart woman. You didn't think that you were with a man that was capable of this much violence. And yet, in hindsight now, you've put together all these pieces, and that's what you're wanting to share with the women that you're able to connect with today, right?
Yeah, I've had so many people over the years say, gosh, you're so lucky. You're so successful in your career, and look at your marriage, which is just amazing. 30 years, he's still my best friend. And I just think, well, no, I'm not lucky. I've worked really, really hard. And people don't realize that I've gone from that to this. And I really want to say to people, I'm not defined by it. I really am not defined by it. I took it and I thought, okay, I can spend the rest of my life blaming him and feeling pity and being a victim. And I thought, no, I've got to actually take some responsibility for myself and say, actually, it was quite liberating when I worked this out, because by saying, why, asking myself the hard questions, why did I stay? Because I went back after he tried to kill me. I went back, and I had a baby with him. I married him, and so I had to ask myself that question: why did I stay when others would have run a mile? There has to be something about me, and that was really liberating for me, because while I was there trying to control the uncontrollable and fix him and hope and wait for him to change, I was not getting anywhere. It didn't work. And I realized by then it didn't work. And so to be liberated and think, oh, all I need to do is change me. Oh, good, that's easy. And well, it wasn't easy, but
Yeah.
it was a hell of a lot easier than thinking I'm going to spend the next 30 years like this. Or I probably wouldn't.
Or expecting
Probably
that
would
you
have
could
been.
change him, right?
Yeah, yeah. So once I got that, it was like having the answer, like the golden ticket. I suddenly had the answer to life, and it made my life so simple. And that applies to everything, in career and everything. You can change you. And so, for example, taking it out of the domestic violence context, if you are confronted by bullies, well, then you have the choice in how you react. If they're jumping up and down and being like that, you can choose to step away and not. And therefore, they lose their power. And so it liberates you in many, many, many ways. And so all these young people I've mentored through my career, I've seen a lot of young people and I've mentored their careers because I really believe in passing your success down. And I've ended up becoming very close to them, men and women, but a lot of the women I kept seeing going for the bad boys and choosing the wrong type over and over and over again. And they kept saying, how come you've got this successful relationship? I said, well, because I learned what the bad boy was about, and that they weren't the most exciting things in the world. In fact, they're completely unavailable emotionally. And that the beta boys are far more attractive, and they're the ones who stay and love you, And they go, well, how? And then one particular girl that I've mentored over the years, she said to me, God, you have to bottle this. You really need to write this down. And she's now gone from the bad boy relationship and has found this lovely one. And I'm now waiting to put the hat on and go to the wedding because, and she was the one who said, you need to write this down. You need to bottle it. And so that was what spurred the book. And then even then, I sort of have now come out with all the stuff. She said, God, I didn't even know the half of that stuff.
Yeah.
That I only know the little bits you've told me. And that's why most of my friends are completely surprised by it. And that's why I think it's good to see the before and after. It's quite good for people to see the before, because all they see is me as this packaged thing that's quite successful. And I don't want people to see that. I want people to see that I came from being a single mother. When I found the courage to leave him, I left with my baby and what I could fit in the car, and that was it. Nothing else. I left everything behind. And because I had to do a moonlight flit and leave and go in the middle of the night and just escape. And so that's my starting point. So I started from there, and now you see me where I am now.
Yeah.
So I have bottled it, as she said.
Yeah. What do you feel like is one of the most important messages that you have if there is someone out there that is feeling like they're in a narcissistic relationship or in a abusive relationship? What message do you have for them? What invitation do you have for them to look at, either for themselves or in the relationship that they're in?
I think the absolutely most important thing is to trust your gut instincts, because they are there as your internal warning system, and it's there for a very good reason. And the thing that we do when we go into these relationships, and the things that narcissistic or abusive people want us to do, is not trust those gut instincts. Mm-hmm. So I saw all the red flags were there, the warning signs were there. And if you ask anyone in these relationships, I bet they will say the same. The problem is we ignore them. And so I would absolutely say you have got to trust your gut instincts and don't minimize them. Even women who are at danger of being killed, like I was, minimize them and don't trust their gut. But when you've got a narcissist who's gaslighting you, who's immediately after they've done something abusive is saying, well, that didn't happen, or you imagined it, you're crazy, you start to believe them. And if you're low in self-esteem, then of course you start to, when you're thinking, well, can I trust my gut instinct, or do I believe what they're telling me? You believe what they're telling you, and you start to ignore it. And then it numbs it. The more you ignore it, the more they don't work. Your gut doesn't work so finely anymore. So that would be number one. And number two, you are not to blame. You're not to blame. I firmly believe that people who are abusive, especially violent, and also emotionally abusive, because that is domestic violence as well, in my opinion, is that we are targeted, we are groomed, we are set up and groomed in the same way that a pedophile grooms a victim. To me, it is absolutely the same tactics that they use. They choose us, and this is not to victim blame, but they choose us because they need somebody who has that vacuum. They need that somebody who is so low in self-esteem, so low in self-worth, that they are easy to manipulate. So if you've got a void of shame that you don't feel good enough, then you're easy to be manipulated. You're ripe for manipulation. And so in a way, you've got this invisible sign on your forehead, pick me, and then once they've chosen that target, and they can read these signals easily, they set you up, and they set you up by, as I was saying before, you get this glimmer of the dark side, and then it goes away, and then it comes back, and then it goes away. And that beginning process is all about setting up the rules of the relationship. Well, it's doing two things. It's one, testing your boundaries, and if you'll run away or not. The ones that run away, okay, well, they're not the ones I'm going to be able to groom, but the ones like me who stay, when those boundaries are being tested, and I didn't push back and say no because I wasn't strong enough in self-esteem to be able to set healthy boundaries. But then the second thing they do is they're setting up the ground rules for the relationship. And the ground rules are that you will take the blame. Because they're saying, well, I got angry because of something you said or something you did. And you start to go, oh, okay, maybe it was me. And then you start to change your behavior to try not to make them angry. So you then start to unwittingly show them that you're taking responsibility and you're taking the blame. Once they do that and understand the ground rules of that dysfunctional relationship, bam, out comes the grooming, which is the full-on gaslighting, telling you you're crazy, you're imagining it, that didn't happen, mirroring onto you the stuff like saying you lied when actually they're the one lying, or you're having an affair when they're the one being unfaithful. That's sort of projecting onto you what they're doing, and all those various tactics and techniques. So yeah, when you've gone through that process, it's so powerful. You are powerless to leave. So blaming a victim and saying she's to blame, why doesn't she just leave? Why does she stay? Is really unfair and really unreasonable, because if you're low in self-esteem, it's been bashed out of you repeatedly with a cycle of violence, and you've been groomed to that level. You can't leave. You're powerless. You don't have the courage to. Right. So I'd say trust your gut instincts, and you are not to blame.
Yeah, and I love that you make that so clear, which is like this, because there's such a fine line for those who are not aware of the massive differences between what it means to be victim blaming and what it means to take responsibility, right? That those two, I think, get blurry for those who are not aware of it. But it's something that I really love. And, I obviously know your coursework really well in terms of being a coach with you, coaching you. But one of the things I love is how you speak to that, even if a woman considers herself, a woman or a girl considers herself to be confident, or that she doesn't think she has self-esteem, or how could this ever happen to her? Like, she literally, like, you didn't think it was going to happen to you, that even if there's one small little, inlet or something, right, that you talk about how you may actually have started the relationship feeling very confident, because in the beginning, they're just they're making you feel like $1,000,000. So you do feel amazing.
Yeah.
This slow, like tear down almost that happens, that you actually probably started off in the relationship feeling very amazing and very independent, but then who you are a couple months in or 6 months in, or even, it's like totally different. And to really watch for those signs early.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I thought I was strong. I didn't even know I was low in self-esteem. And it felt great. It felt great. But what happens is, as that slow drip starts, it just gradually wears you down. And it can happen to anybody. This is what I am saying. It can happen to anybody. And the problem is, what I want to speak out about is that difference between victim blaming and responsibility, is because I think that if you understand the rules of that game and you understand what these people are like and how to recognize those red flags and those warning signs, you'll be able to get out before you've lost the strength to be able to.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be so many people, I know it's controversial, and I know there's going to be so many people who probably attack me for saying, oh, you're victim blaming. You're saying that the woman or man, if they're abused, but usually woman, needs to protect herself from becoming hit by that guy. In the same vein that people say, oh, she needs to wear different clothes to avoid getting raped. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But
you're just,
what I'm saying is that you can take responsibility for your own safety and yourself. And thank God you can, because had I not been able to, I wouldn't have been able to get out and survive and turn my life around. So I'm glad that there is something that you can do. So, what I feel very strongly about is that at the moment, while it's wonderful that finally governments and people are taking domestic violence seriously, because they never did when I went through it. When I threw it, it was a private matter, and I had people who knew I was going through it who ignored it. When I escaped after he tried to kill me, I walked past 2 neighbours bleeding down my legs and pregnant and clearly in distress and starting to lose the ability to breathe. And they just turned their heads and didn't look at me. And they were like, oh, don't get involved in this, clearly. So I'm really glad that governments are. But I sort of think they're going about it the wrong way. I think while they keep coming up with ad campaigns that say, men, respect your women, boys, be nicer, don't punch those girls. Yes, teach the boys not to punch the girls, that's fine. But you know what? If I had a daughter, I would be the campaign I would want is, this is how you spot a narcissist.
Yeah.
These are the red flags. These are the warning signs that you should trust your gut on and run a mile. I would like to see us saying to girls, right, girls, the most important thing that you need to learn as you grow up is self-esteem.
Yeah.
Because that's the key to all of it. That is the key to all of it. That's the key to recognizing that those red flags are wrong, trusting your gut and instinct, setting healthier boundaries and all that.
Yeah.
So it might be controversial, but I think that we can take responsibility. And it's also about breaking the cycle. Why not tell young girls this? Let's break that cycle. Yeah. Because if we keep blaming the victim and not addressing the cause of the problem, just blaming the victim and looking at the symptom, well, then if that woman finds the courage to leave, there's going to be another one who gets groomed by that guy. Because these guys are, to me, as powerful as pedophiles in that level of grooming. So you'll just have a steady stream of more victims. And I must be right about that, because you know what? Nothing's changed in 25, 30 years. Yes, the profile's higher, but there are still 2 women killed every week.
Yeah.
So nothing's changed there.
Speaking of, I'm really curious,
we need to do something different.
Yeah. And here you've had this like long career and you have this amazing relationship and these beautiful children. And so you could have easily just let this be a part of your past and let this, be something that, you've gotten you where you are. But, so why now? You clearly, you've had this successful career, you've been, and all these things. So yeah, just share with us, like, why now?
I think because nobody would have listened before. And, well, two things, that and also the internet has made it possible. And social media has made it possible. So what happened was that there was this tragic, really tragic case in Australia of a woman named Rosie Batty, who all Australians will know her name. She is the most beautiful, amazing woman. And I've now been speaking to her, and she's giving me her support and backing, which I love, and I'm so grateful to her for. She had a dreadful, she was estranged from her partner. She'd been trying to get the courts and the police to protect her son, and they failed her. And what happened was a very tragic and public and horrendous death of her son at her ex's hands. He was at cricket practice, and the father, beat him with a cricket bat and stabbed him, and then clearly wanted to be killed by the police and was shot, and it was sort of murder-suicide, but suicide by police, if you really like. And the next day she came out and spoke on the steps and said, I am here to tell you that this can happen to anybody. I'm the face of domestic violence. It can happen to anybody. And very, very sadly, she's white, middle class, articulate, and eloquent. And sadly, it took a white middle class woman for people to listen.
Right.
And that's appalling, but that's what happened. And I thought, well, now she's come out, people are listening. And I thought, I want to add my voice to hers, because I know that as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, the power of story. And I know that my story is quite a powerful one of survival, of success. And although it's a very dark one, it's also a really inspiring one. And so I just felt now's the time. And so that's what, as I said before, led to the book. And then I realized, having started the blog and all that, the power of social media. And I'm now connecting with victims in closed Facebook groups. And I'm doing a lot of that, which people don't even know I'm doing, where I'm giving advice and support, and where I can. And if I can't, then just saying you need to get professional help, and like I did, because you do need professional support or whatever. And it's just been incredible, the power of social media. Yeah. So I think that's really why. And I do hope now that people will listen. Because especially people like Rosie Batty.
Exactly. And, the thing that, this is still very much the case. And I think is shocking, with as much awareness as there is now, how it's so in our faces and we see it so clearly, and it's like undeniable. And yet still there's such a huge amount of sweeping under the rug, or it's somehow not okay to talk about it. People don't know how to respond. Right. So it's like you said, it required this white upper class put together woman, when this has been happening for decades, hundreds of years, right? It's finally having its light. And actually what really struck me when you talked about social media is, when a woman is in this situation, and certainly as you were when you were young, who were you to talk to? Your neighbors were like, they didn't know how to respond. They were going to look away. Your family wasn't even able to respond. Like, they didn't know how to help you, or, and it's like, where do you go now? Number one, they have the safety, hopefully, of online, so they can be in a Facebook group and hopefully behind password protection, where their partner cannot see that they're exploring, is this what's happening for me? Yeah. Right?
It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible, because, I didn't even tell people the worst of what was going on, because you don't, you're ashamed. You're right. You really are. But these closed Facebook groups are incredible. And the women I'm seeing are helping each other through court processes, and some of them now are even one wonderful woman is now even going to court to give them support because one or two of them are representing themselves against the narcissist, which is really tough. Yeah. So with my course, I've decided to create a secret Facebook group as well, so that people who are taking the course can share with each other, encourage each other as they go along the course at the same time, because I've started it at the same time.
Yeah.
So everyone starts together. And then I will go in there, of course, and be there too, and offer my support and help where I can as well.
Yeah.
But it is incredibly powerful. It is incredibly powerful. And I think that women are now joining up that way in more ways than I didn't even realize. And it's incredible. And they are all supporting each other, learning about all this stuff that I've just been telling you about, and realizing it's not their fault. Yeah. Because when you're on your own, you feel very isolated. And abusive people want you to be isolated because they don't want you to have that knowledge. Right. So
they don't want you to be strong. They don't want you to realize that there's another way. And I mean, that's what I love about the work that you've been putting together and the message that you've been sharing. Because I think that for those that even have that, gut feeling where to start when they, because I think the common fear with any change that we want to create in our life is that it will change everything that we know, that even if it's abusive, it is the comfortable, it's the known at that moment, right? And so what I love about the work that you've been doing is really helping, like, listen, this is not about a drastic change. This is, you're not telling them that they need to leave right away. You're literally just saying, hey, right where you are, let's bring some awareness to what's going on, right? And ask, like, here's some powerful questions to lead you into understanding a little bit more about what might be going on here, both within you and this other person. And then, at that point we can take to these other steps. And also I love that, you can offer this like beautiful guidance system, but that then you say, if you do need professional help, and if you are in a really urgent situation, here are all the resources for you to have access to that immediately.
Yeah. I think, yes, because that is really important, and you can do both. And I think that the role that those helplines play is really crucial. And I went to a support group and it was invaluable to me. But I've had a lot of women even ask me, am I even in an abusive relationship? Right. Because when it's emotional abuse, it's very confusing and you don't know whether you are. So I basically want to take people through those first questions I asked myself. And it's not about trying to change them, fix them. It's not about, you don't need to know the answer right now. Do I need to leave them? Because that's the overwhelming thing that actually is really hard, because your head tells you you should leave.
Especially if you have if you're pregnant or if you have children,
Yeah. And your heart wants you to stay in things. And you love them too. You do love them.
Right.
And you didn't ask for this to happen. You love them. You just happened to fall in love with them. I didn't fall in love with a violent guy. I happened to fall in love with the guy who later turned that way. So, so I basically say you don't need to know those answers, but as I take you through the course, I will show you the questions to ask that will make you come to that decision yourself when you're ready. Yeah. And also about assessing the level of danger you're in, because there are things that you can look at in the relationship that tell you whether if you're in an emotional abusive relationship, whether there is the risk that it will become violent. And if you're in a violent relationship, there are a lot of factors that can tell you whether you are in danger of being killed by that person, because there are checklists that you can go through. So I also talk through a lot of that as well, to just assess where you are right now. What is your gut feeling telling you? Are you seeing any warning signs? I also go through what I believe is a really important thing, which is helping people understand that sort of love that you have for them is actually not a healthy form. It becomes almost like an addiction for you. And it's you get hooked on that high of that very charismatic person at the start. And then with the cycle of highs and lows and highs and lows, you just want to keep getting the high back, the nice person back. You don't want Mr. Hyde, you want Dr. Jekyll, and they almost meter these doses you have, and you become addicted to it. And so you think, well, if I only do X or Y, then I'll get it back. Or if I do this, then they'll be happy, and then I'll have that, bask in their sunshine again. So you do get quite addicted to it. And as a result, if you do go to leave, or even the thought of leaving, it terrifies you, because by the very nature of that addiction, you know in your head that leaving them means you're going to lose the very thing that makes you feel good. And that's a really difficult thing to break.
Yeah.
So the beginning of this course is about how to understand whether it's become an unhealthy addiction for you, and really understanding how the cycle of abuse works, really understanding the tactics they use to manipulate you, exploit you, wear down your self-esteem. And once you start to really see where you are right now, then you can start to ask yourself the questions like, is it good enough for me? Am I in danger? Those sorts of things. And then that will lead on to my second course, which is very much how to break that addiction, how to break that cycle so you don't go back and repeat the pattern or go into another abusive relationship. So that will be the next course, about really looking at that addiction and how you stop feeling that intense pull towards them.
It's so great to clarify, because some people are not even in, emotional or physical abusive relationships in, like you said, like it might not be their partner, but it may be.
No, that's right.
It may be someone even in your family. And I mean, yours is very much focused on this, but man, this is like, I love what you said about what you'd love to teach women out there and girls everywhere, because many people, I know even mothers or fathers are actually the narcissistic, dysfunctional relationship that you have in your life in some way, or it could even be one of your siblings, or it could be an aunt and uncle. I mean, it's just like rampant, let alone then who's at work, or, all this stuff. So
it could be a boss, it could be a boss, it could be a colleague, it could be a gay partner,
incredible.
It could be
could be the president of the United States.
Partner. Yeah, I mean, it crosses all boundaries, all religion, all gender, all sexuality. It crosses everywhere. And I need to clarify, I do say women a lot, but most of my posts I keep gender neutral, because I do know that there are men, and I have met one only very recently, and he said, gosh, it was so humiliating for me. I'm 6'2" and my petite wife was abusing me. So I imagine that's really hard, but the fact is most...
Or even in same-sex relationships. I mean, the dynamics are completely, Well, so one thing too that I wanted to make sure everyone knows, and we will link to, but in terms of what Viv was just sharing about really kind of wondering into this for yourself, that if you are watching this and you're wondering if, are you in an abusive relationship right now? And how do you even know if you're kind of having the sense of it? Well, Viv has actually put together a quiz on her website that we'll make sure that we link to in this, but it's on unbeatable.com. And you can go to that quiz and just walk yourself through some questions. And she's got some really beautiful inquiries there to just help you get a sense of what level of abusive relationship are you in, and if that helps for where you are right now. It's really powerful resource of great questions in there.
Thank you. It's actually beingunbeatable.com.
Oh, thank you.
Sadly, I couldn't get unbeatable, but beingunbeatable.com.
Okay, great. Good. Well, I'm curious, what else, if there's anything else, what haven't we covered, or what else would you like to share here for anyone who's watching?
I think that I just would like to say to people, when I was going through it, I just felt that there was absolutely no hope. I felt that there was no way out. I wondered how I got there in the first place. So I blamed myself. And you can feel totally overwhelmed. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, I know your pain. I understand that. And that's why I'm hoping that my course will just help you to just take one little step at a time. And that's what saved me, was taking that one little step at a time, breaking down that being overwhelmed into just tiny pieces that I could achieve. There were times when I was going, forget one day at a time, I was going 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time sometimes, when I was on my own and had left and was crying fetal in a ball, you know. But there is life after. There is life after. And my God, look at my life from back then to now. And I can honestly say I'm now living the life I love. And I love it, you know, and I'm just so happy for that knowledge I've got, because it's just changed every aspect of my life. And also the other thing is it's easier than you think. You know, when you're that overwhelmed, you think, oh, I can't do this. You know, it's easy for her to say that because look at her, she's really successful. But it was easier than I thought. Once I took that first step in the right direction and had the right sort of support around me, the rest just actually followed. It was like these little miracles would appear. And when you're overwhelmed and in the chaos, you can't see them. Yeah. And they're happening all the time around you. But when I just took my focus off that crazy relationship and him, I put it back on me then and thought, well, that's all I can change. If I can just change me, I have to accept I can't change anything else but me. Then suddenly all these little miracles appeared, a person that I needed to have with me right at that moment who'd say the thing I needed to learn, the opportunity for work that would come that I would never have seen before because I was too fixated on I have to go this way, you know. Yeah. My blinkers were on and my self-will was taking me that way. And then actually there's this scene in Jim Carrey film, Yes Man, that I love, because there's two movies I love. I hope I'm not taking
go for it. It's fine. It's great.
I've just got to tell you this. And it sums everything up for me. Like, I was watching Yes Man. You know, Jim Carrey and Morgan Freeman is God. And Morgan Freeman is God. And he lets Jim be God for a while. And he starts to not cope and he can't deal with it. And it's all just crazy. And he's running along the highway. And there's these trucks and cars going past him. And it's pouring with rain. And he's running along going, God, you know, he's blaming him and getting really angry and just show me the way, show me what I need to do. And while he's railing and getting furious about with God and blaming him, and all these trucks are going past, and on the back of them they've got these signs in neon lights going, go that way, go this way, do this. And for me that's the analogy of when I was overwhelmed.
Of like it's right there in front of you, but you can't see it.
It was right in front of me and I couldn't see it. And once somebody showed me, it was inside me. The answers were all there. And once I found that, I thought, God, it was the most empowering thing ever. And that it wasn't as hard as I thought. And then the other one I love is Bridget Jones, when they'd have that, you know, Hugh Grant and Colin Firth have that punch up that goes into the Italian restaurant. And they're piling around and it's raining, man, hallelujah, punch, punch. And they end up on the ground outside. And then she has to choose, do I go for the nice guy or the bad boy? And she goes to the bad boy and she sort of mops his brow and he looks up and she goes, Bridge, we belong together. You know, you, me and your little skirt, we belong together. And then finally she has this light bulb moment. And she then goes, I'm sorry, that's not a good enough offer for me. And I thought, that's the other analogy of my life, is once you start to learn to just go, that's not a good enough offer for me. You start to realize, well, you know, I thought I was strong being in this relationship, but really, is that a good enough offer for me? Yeah. Being abused, having someone strangle me, is that a good enough offer for my child? No, it's not. And if you apply that to everything in your life, it's amazing how successful.
Well, because what it does is it brings choice back to you, right? It says, actually, guess what? You can choose. And is this what you want? Yes or no? And that really, like, and this is what you're doing, is like opening up this possibility that this isn't the only way, that you do have choice. Yeah. You know, and interestingly enough, as you've heard me talk so much in the Hendricks work, it's all about stepping from a victim to a creator in your life, recognizing that you have choice and that you can create this life that you want. And so yours, you know, in terms of stepping from victim to survivor, and then also not only being a survivor, but really like just having this like strong awareness and strength within yourself that goes through life from then on out that says, actually, I know I deserve more. I know I am worth more, not out of any that anyone is special. It's that everyone deserves to be in a healthy, loving relationship. And you're right, we're not trained of what that is. In fact, our training is usually from our family, which is a very poor training most of the time, because they weren't trained on what's right and wrong. They're just like functionally going through their own stuff too, you know.
That's a really nice way of putting it, actually. That's a really lovely way of putting it. It is that you have choice. And when you're in the midst of that sort of destructive vortex, and you feel powerless and you feel overwhelmed, like, this is what I want to say to people going through it now. You don't feel like you've got that choice. And actually you do. And once you realize you do, honestly, the rest follows. The rest follows. And that's why I have created this course, to take them through the steps that show them how they can have that choice and how they can just ask different questions. And so I'm really proud of it. I'm very proud of it. I feel like I just feel it's going to make a huge difference to other people's lives, like it did to me. And I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah, no, I know.
I know already. The feedback and emails and comments and things that I'm getting every day from all over the world, from women I've never met in my life, has been extraordinary. And it's just so validating, and it's lovely. It's making me think, yes, keep going in the right direction, keep going this direction. Because it was when I first announced to everyone that I was doing this, I was really terrified, because, as I said, most people didn't know this about me, and I felt like I was walking down the street naked when that Daily Mail article came out.
Yeah,
I didn't quite get it was going to be a double-page spread, and like huge. So I felt really exposed, and that's that sort of, again, taps into that feeling vulnerable, and you know, all of us, even as strong as I am now, you can feel those moments of vulnerability, and I just felt really naked and vulnerable. So having those you know, the feedback, the support, the encouragement has just been incredible, really. And it's people telling me to keep going. And so, I feel very, very good about what I'm doing now.
I am so happy that you're sharing your story and helping so many women out there that just don't even know where to start. And, you know, even if they've heard about it for a long time, you know, I think we're in this time where we're learning what narcissism is, learning what gaslighting is, learning what abuse is. And for you to be giving this very, very simple step-by-step invitation that's also very affordable, accessible for those everywhere that, you know, can't afford or are even embarrassed to go to like a clinic or a therapist or what have you, but that anywhere out there that they can participate in this. And that's huge. I mean, what a beautiful gift. So thank you so much, you know,
Thank you.
From me, and then on behalf of women everywhere and men as well, who are able to access this beautiful work that you're sharing. Truly, thank you.
Thank you for your support and encouragement as well.
Where can they find you online? Where can they sign up for what you're working on?
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Yes, my website is www.beingunbeatable.com. And the motto of that is be strong, fearless, and successful. So you can find me there. I'm on everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and all of those are the same handle, which is @beingunbeatable.
You are rocking it. I love seeing it. It's so inspiring to me and everyone in the group. You are a total model for what is possible when you put your mind to it and you've got a message to share with the world and you put one foot in front of the other and you share it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. To learn all about the work I do with visionary entrepreneurs around the world and to access more inspiring videos and helpful resources for you on your path, be sure to visit willowlovesyou.com.